In the meantime, the world is running out of energy. What brilliant news then that there is a way of extracting vast quantities of natural gas from the earth which might bridge the looming gap. But last year, 2 earthquakes hit Blackpool, little ones of course, but these were different. They were not natural phenomena. They'd been caused by efforts to extract methane gas from the ground in a process known as fracking. No big deal, say the energy companies, which think fracking is hugely promising. It is huge in the States, but environmentalists hate it and it's banned in France. Yet any day now the government is expected to allow it to resume here. Do we want it? Susan Watts reports.
It was extremely unlikely that there would be no earth tremors. There have already been 2.
2 earthquakes in 2 months won't stop gas drilling for good.
Last year, Blackpool was hit by 2 small earthquakes. The tremors didn't amount to much, but these were no natural phenomena. By trying to extract methane gas from beneath the Earth's surface, engineers had triggered a seismic response. The technique is known as fracking. Over 800 wells were planned for sites here on the Fylde Peninsula. Operations were called to a halt following the earthquakes, and the government ordered a review. A decision on whether they can start up again is expected any day now. But Newsnight has discovered worrying signs that regulation is not keeping pace with the industry.
An industrial process that causes earthquakes clearly isn't great, even if it is only small local tremors. And these quakes have focused opposition, raising a host of other questions about the impact of fracking on this coastal landscape of the Lancashire Peninsula.
Mike Hill is a technical advisor to Fylde Borough Council. He's a former oil and gas engineer who used to work in the industry. He's not against fracking, but lives locally and wants to ensure it's done properly.
If you have a tremor, for example, a seismic event, albeit relatively small, you might feel a few shakes in the houses, but my concern isn't really houses or buildings. It's more the cement around the borehole, because if that gets cracked, that's when you can get contamination of the aquifer, that's when you can get pollutants migrating away and moving away from the borehole, and we must prevent that at all costs.
He's concerned after America's experience with fracking. Internet videos showed flaming taps as gas escaped into drinking water. Some companies denied that such leaks were happening, but America's second largest natural gas company, Chesapeake Energy, admitted to Newsnight that it had found evidence of gas leaks and had changed its procedures.
In some cases it looks like as the cement was drying, that methane, the high pressure shallow methane, kept it from drying properly and would allow channeling to develop on the outside of the casing, which then could allow methane to move upwards to a shallower zone and then get into fresh water.
Pretty good right there.
And we found regulators trying to catch up and impose rules after serious problems had already occurred.
My name is Mark Miller. I'm the CEO of Cuadrilla Resources.
The main players in UK shale gas exploration have tried to make the case for fracking.
We're standing today in front of a drill rig that's drilling a new exploration well to 9,000 feet near Blackpool.
They insist they're a responsible company.
Employs all state-of-the-art equipment, even down to the actual operation of it.
His point is that it'll all be done safely.
We can assure people that some of the concerns that you have regarding oil and gas drilling will not happen on our watch and will not happen with wells we drill in this area.
Blackpool is a focal point now. It sits on one of the UK's most promising sites, the Bowland Shale. But Lancashire's not the only place with shale gas resources. There are shale rocks stretching under the Pennine Basin from Blackpool to Scarborough, in the Midland Valley in Scotland, and even possibly in the Weald and Wessex basins of southern England. Estimates vary on how much gas it might be possible to extract. The British Geological Survey reckons on the equivalent of some 18 months of UK gas needs. Cuadrilla has said it calculates there are 200 trillion cubic feet available. That could mean many year's supply, worth billions of pounds. To get an overview of just how big an impact fracking could have on the landscape, it helps to get a bird's eye view. This part of Lancashire is heavily populated, with Blackpool on the coast and Preston further inland. What makes people anxious here in the UK is that drilling sites are so close to where people live. However much Cuadrilla vows to keep its operations safe, people worry that other companies may not be as conscientious.
Bird watchers will be coming. So
Christine Dickinson runs a caravan site close to where they might drill and just down the road from the local bird sanctuary.
No, we don't want it on here, on our doorstep, where it could, you know, contaminate the water where the birds are, contaminate our spring water. I've got a spring here, and we don't want to take that risk.
We approached Cuadrilla, where former head of BP, Lord Brown, is a director, for an interview through their PR consultants here in London. We wanted to ask them about their practices, regulation and local concerns, but they declined.
In response to our questions, they said Cuadrilla believes that the tough and comprehensive regulatory regime that is now in place will ensure the UK can benefit from shale gas safely and securely. They said they have an ongoing dialogue with local residents and believe shale gas could have a transformative effect on the local and national economy.
But just how tough and comprehensive is the regulatory regime that Cuadrilla refers to? Mike Hill took us to the Priest Hall site near Blackpool. It's the only one in the UK so far that's been partially fracked. Cuadrilla agreed to stop work after the earthquakes, while the government review took place. That was months ago, but the leftover fracking fluid is still here because Cuadrilla has no permit to move it. The water they're storing is radioactive because it's picked up natural radiation from underground. It's at only a low level, but above that allowed by the Environment Agency.
When you frack a well, you put about 2 million gallons of water down it. About 1 million flows away with the fracking chemicals into the formations, and we don't know where it goes. It just goes. And then about 1 million will come back up the well. They'll recycle it, so they'll be left with about 500,000 gallons per well. And if they've got 842 wells, then probably about 400 million gallons of water that needs to be disposed of, ranging between 10 and 90 times the permissible radioactive limits.
The Environment Agency is just one of the regulators that oversees this industry. The Health and Safety Executive is another. So how close an eye are they keeping on it all?
When I ask them, OK, how many times have you come down? How many times have you inspected? When Cuadrilla say they're doing X, Y, Z, how many times have you actually checked they are doing X, Y, Z? And the answer, none. Not once in 2 years has the HSE visited any of the wells in Lancashire to test, inspect or verify for themselves.
So it sounds as if your concern over regulation is that too much of it is being left to the industry itself rather than proactive regulation.
Absolutely. It's entirely being left to the industry itself.
We asked the Environment Agency what plans it has to deal with the flowback fluid stored at Priest Hall and how it intends to regulate this in the future, and the Health and Safety Executive why they appear content to rely on reassurances from Cuadrilla Resources. The Environment Agency told us that Cuadrilla will have to seek a permit to dispose of its fracking fluids. They said, we have the regulatory framework to protect the environment during exploratory shale gas projects, but this would have to be reviewed if ever there was a move to full-scale operational mode. The HSE said they had been to the site to inspect it and had 5 face-to-face meetings with Cuadrilla and would hold joint inspections with the Environment Agency if fracking gets the go-ahead. If the industry rides out local opposition here in Lancashire and finds it really can extract as much as it hopes, and safely, then the impact of shale gas in the UK could be dramatic. It's already brought down gas prices in the US. And this poses a dilemma for the government. Turning to gas for a few more years pushes visions of a carbon-free energy supply further into the future. But it could help to solve fuel poverty and boost the economy. As it ponders this potential new source of homegrown energy, that promise may prove too tempting to resist.